Hello and welcome to today's Wholehearted Living podcast episode with your host Debs Thorpe, and today we are diving into what it is to dream big. Following on from the last episode where we spoke about the power of a decision, I left you with what it is to make decisions based on your human mind, your human brain and self versus your higher mind and your higher self. And what it is to follow the dream and the desire rather than almost like staying put where you are and staying within the known. And I promised that we would, in a future episode, dive into what it is to reconnect with your dreams and desires if you're really struggling right now to know what they are. And I felt like this would be a really good follow-on from that. So today we're going to dive in a little bit into some tools and techniques for reconnecting you with your true dreams and desires if you feel like you have lost touch with those. Now, this can happen at various points in our life where we feel like we've got into a little bit of a rut or a little bit of a routine. Maybe we, to some extent, feel like we're going through life on autopilot. Life gets busy, for example. So, maybe you feel like you're just caught up in everyday life and there's not really been a moment for you to stop and think about whether you're actually happy or this is what you want or this is meeting your dreams and desires. So that's some of the reasons. Whether this resonates for you or not, this was certainly my experience, was I was a kid who had huge dreams and ambitions. I was exceptionally self-motivated, and I, to this day, still don't know where this dream and desire came from, and I don't know where it still fits into my life today. But ever since I can remember, so easily from 5 years old, I had a desire to be a pilot, and not just like any old pilot. I wanted to be a fast jet pilot, and at that stage, I wanted to be the first female Red Arrows pilot. So for those who aren't UK based, you still might know who the Red Arrows are, but they are the display team, and they go all around the world doing the most amazing displays. So at that point there had not been a female Red Arrows pilot, and I was like, that's what I want to be and do. And I spent my childhood with that goal in mind. I joined the Air Training Corps at 13 years old. I learned all with the ambition that I would go into the RAF, and I was very sporty for that reason, to keep up with all of those requirements. I took maths and physics A levels. I literally spent so many of my free time at different air shows, and I did my work experience on an RAF base. Like everything, or certainly a huge part of my life, was geared up for that dream. And I remember I was just coming towards the end of my first year of A levels, and I was about at the age of going to the recruitment office, getting ready to basically I would go to university, which the RAF would pay for, and also do my training alongside that. So me and my mum hopped on the bus to the local city, and I rock up at the recruitment office, and I'm like, right, here we are, I'm all good to go, like let's get me signed up. And I'll never forget the recruitment woman who was in the office at the time, and she just took one look at me and said, I'm not even going to put you forward for the training. And I was like, excuse me. I knew I was exceptionally fit at that time. I ticked all the boxes. I'd done plenty of research. I knew that I was a good candidate. And so again, she looked me up and down and said, right, I want you to go and stand up against that measure. So she was recording my height, and I'm small. I came in at 5'2", and she was like, you're 2 inches too short. And I'd spent time on an RAF base at this point. I knew I was the right size for a fast jet. So, fast jets are pretty small. I'd been in a cockpit enough times, I knew I was okay. So I was arguing my point, and she was saying that they'd changed the recruitment process, and you don't get to decide what pilot you want to be in the RAF. They put you forward for the training, and then whatever pilots they need at the time, that's what you'll get funneled into. And she said, you will not be tall enough if you end up in one of the big Hercules or like the big cargo planes. She was like, you just won't be able to reach all the controls. And the way that the recruitment office was set up, you'd got the RAF, the Navy and the Army all next to each other. And so obviously the other guys had been listening to the conversation, and they were like, you can come and join us. So I had the option to join the Navy or the Army. I could have had the choice of any other job in the RAF, literally any of them. And I was just so distraught and so heartbroken at the time that, I could not foresee a situation in life where this dream that had been within me for so many years didn't happen. So, and it was so abrupt as well, to not even get to the stage of filling out an application form. So I remember walking out of that office with my mum. I was in the middle of the city centre. I just broke down, and I was like, now what? My whole life had been geared towards that dream. I had no clue at all what else I would do. So as I look back on that now, there's a lot of people who didn't understand why I didn't go for any other job in the RAF or go for any of the other forces. And in reality, there was nothing else that lit me up. I wanted to be a pilot. That's what I wanted to do. And I'd been on an RAF base. I knew how they functioned, and there was just nothing else that I wanted to dedicate the amount of time and energy to that would be needed, right, to be in the forces and not ultimately do that job. So I was like, right, I'm going to totally step out of it. I changed all of my A levels. I went into psychology, sociology, and actually my life took on a totally different turn. And it ended up with me not having a clue what to do. And my mum had always worked in admin her whole life, and I was like, well, that seems like a pretty solid enough job. I was very academic, very organised. I thought that would be something that I'd be able to do pretty easily. And I got caught in order to get a job in admin, you needed to have admin experience, but you can't get experience if you can't get a job. So I was sat in a cafe one day, and I saw a notice for some counselling service that were looking for volunteer receptionists 2 hours a week. I was like, brilliant, that gets me my experience, and then I'll be able to get a job. So I started up at this counselling service, which was a charity. What started as a 2-hour shift every week quickly became, I think in the end, 2 days and an evening. I volunteered there. I absolutely loved it, and the manager was absolutely amazing and very much took me under her wing. And within a few months, they were going to be doing their introduction to counselling course. She took me to the side and said, I really feel like you should do this. I see something in you that I think you'd make a really, really good counsellor. And so that was the start of my counselling journey at this point, 18 years old. So my life took on this whole different turn, which was amazing in itself, and it has led on to me working in this field for 20 years. What I didn't realise is that a part of me took on the belief that dreams are not meant to come true. So, you can imagine that I had lived so many years with such a strong dream and desire that took me all through my childhood years, all through my teenage years, only for that to not be possible at the end of it. And I then took on the belief that dreams and desires and goals, they're meant to give you a focus. They're meant to give you a direction to aim in, but they're not really meant to come true. And what I didn't realise is that I had taken on that belief from that situation. So I then, as a consequence, lived my life very small for the next few years. I got married, I moved away. My life then revolved around my then husband. He did go into the military, so I became a army wife at that point and lost a huge amount of my identity. And, I settled because that's what I believed you needed to do. That dreams and desires, they're not meant to come true. It gave me a focus throughout my teenage years. That's what it was there for. And so I then totally and utterly lost touch with my own dreams and desires for my life. And there's a huge period of, well, not huge, but maybe 7 or 8 years of my life following on from that, where I actually didn't even bother checking in with myself to see what I dreamed and desired for myself, because what was the point? I was settled, I was living a relatively good life, particularly at that age. This was it. I was married, this was it now for me. And it wasn't until my then husband left the army, I got a job at Exeter University, and I actually ended up volunteering as a caseworker for RAFA, and they are the association that supports ex-RAF personnel. And of course, being back in that kind of environment, and I was able to bring a lot of my counselling and therapy skills into that role, supporting such a wide variety of people. That obviously couldn't have not ignited that spark again. And it was like a pain, a physical pain in my chest of that longing for a part of me that I hadn't even checked in with for a while. I hadn't even really asked myself what I desire, what I want in my life. And that became the way that I then began checking in with myself again about what I want for my life and what I desire, and if I was prepared to just settle. And the answer was no. That was the catalyst for me. Then, leaving my husband, I started a new life in a totally different place, and a year after that started my own business. So that all came from a a moment of awakening back to a part of me that hadn't seen the light of day for quite a while. So I share that little bit of my life story with you to also show you how we can end up just losing connection with that dreaming, desiring part of ourselves. And there's many, many different ways as to why that might happen. And so the very first step in all of this is to become aware that we've lost that connection, because it's always there. Like, it's not like it ever leaves us. It's just we become disconnected from it. So the first step in this is, if you are listening to this and this resonates for you, or maybe you've got some sense of longing or desire for more, but you just really don't know what your desires and dreams are anymore, then the fact that you've become aware of that, that's the first step. Okay, so like, we can tick that box. You're here, you're aware, now we get to do something about it. The next stage is to allow yourself to go back to a time when you felt what it is like to have that rush, the excitement of a dream and desire in your life. So, for me, it was beginning to do work with Rafa again. Rafa had put me in touch with the RAF and the military personnel, and it was that connection to that environment that made me realise that there was a whole part of me that had been lost. Now, I'm not sitting speaking to you now as an RAF pilot. Okay, so that is not a dream that ever came into fruition. And I actually don't think now, when I look back over my whole entire life, that was the dream that is meant to come true now. But it is definitely been an anchor point for me to keep coming back to and checking in with, am I pursuing my dreams and goals? What is it that lights me up? I know what that feeling is like in my body, and that is a really great way of reconnecting. So I just want you to take a few moments to think back to when you last felt truly alive in your life. That like on fire feeling, that like almost bliss and excitement, and it's almost indescribable, but it when you're in it, right? That sense that you're kind of in your fullness in that moment. You're pursuing something really worthwhile, right? So think back to the last time you felt that in your life, and that's going to give you a really, really good idea as to where you're at now in relation to that. So if you can't think of a time, that's okay. Allow that question to just sit in your subconscious and allow it to now just work in the background for the rest of the day. You might have a random thought about something as you go throughout your day, or you might dream about something this evening. So just allow your subconscious to kind of reveal the answer to this question. And if by tomorrow you still don't have a clear memory or a clear point in your life when you felt that aliveness, I want you to think back to when you were a kid. I want you to think back to times as a child when you felt most alive, free, fun, like filled with happiness, laughter, excitement. What were the things that you love to do that you could just spend hours and hours doing, and it felt like no time had passed at all? What would be those games that you'd play, the activities that you'd go to, that, when you just had some time to yourself? Okay, because that gives you a good starting point for the sorts of things that light you up in life. And by then starting to pursue those things or entertain those things now as an adult, it provides that connection back to, who you truly are and what really lights you up. And it gives you a starting point for some of those dreams and desires to come through. So that's another tool that you can use to reconnect. You also get to dream, meditate, go on some guided journey for this. So, you get to be able to just listen to some really nice soothing music, follow a guided visualization of connecting with your true self, connecting with your dreams and desires. There's lots and lots of stuff like this on YouTube, and just allowing your subconscious to take the driving seat, which is basically what we're doing when we try and quieten our conscious brain a little bit, and we try and go more into a state whereby our subconscious can speak to us a little bit more. So, typically it's when we're in that half sleep, half awake kind of state, or when we're in that slightly meditative state. So again, you can use a really nice guided visualization that can just allow the subconscious to speak to you in terms of what your dreams and desires are. Another way of connecting with this is asking yourself the question, if I didn't have any limits at all in my life right now, there were no limits, nothing was out of bounds, there was no judgment from anyone, I didn't care what anyone else thought, what would I be doing? This is a really nice question to journal about. Again, all we're doing is removing the limited human brain's way of thinking, and we are consciously tapping into that higher self. But this is a really, really good question. And again, if nothing comes straight away, allow that question to sit in your subconscious and allow that to prompt you, to allow random thoughts to come up throughout the day, to potentially, go to sleep asking yourself this question, to then invite any dreams about this as well. So that's another way that you can tap into the dreams and the desires. And I invite you to go back to, I think it's episode 2 of the podcast, where we talk about giving yourself permission. So give yourself permission to want to live a life that is, more than what you've got right now, or is one that lights you up, whereby you're back in connection with your dreams and desires. Give yourself permission to go there and see what opens up. Now, this, you'll hear me speak about this a lot, and for as much as I am the person who has been studying all of this for 20 odd years and has huge amounts of theory and lots of tools in my toolkit, I still am all about action. This has to translate into your life now. Like, it has to make a difference, right? So my invitations to you are always going to be, let's use these tools. This is how you can put them into place and practice. Now go do it, okay? And watch how this begins to shift. And with any type of change in this way, we're not just doing these things once and then going, okay, well, I've done that, what's next? We're using these to guide our world and and make the changes that we want to. So I really invite you over the next few days to put these tools of reconnecting with your dreams and desires into place. I'm going to add a final tool and technique that I'd forgotten about, but is actually my main one, funnily enough, and that is to be out in nature. So for me, I'd love to trace my ancestry. I'm pretty sure I must have been vaguely nomadic at some point. I love being outside. And so I can find it quite hard at times to connect with my true self or to connect with my higher self when I'm in the environment that requires many, many different roles of me. You know, being inside the house, I'll see that there's stuff that needs to be done. There's cleaning now. I need to do the washing. You know, there's the dogs to sort out. Like, there's always stuff to do. And I become very, very aware of my very, like, human roles, if you like, in the world. And so for me, going out into nature, where I can just connect with the rawness of the beauty and the immense abundance and the amazingness of nature, allows me to tap into that within myself so much easier. So, you know, I'll go and take myself off on a little walk, even in the middle of the city, you'll find a park or some trees or something, okay, that just allows you to connect with the part of you that knows that it is intrinsically connected with everything in the world. And, you know, going and walking in a forest or walking in a field or going and walking in a park, it's not asking anything of you. Like, you don't need to be in a role of any kind when you're doing that. So it allows you to drop out of all of that and drop down into more of your true self. And I think from that place, it becomes a lot easier to then connect with your dreams and desires and allow some of those limitations to fall away. As, you know, a tree is not apologetic for how much space it takes up in the world, or for how grand or how many leaves it has, or, you know, there's something within nature that gives us permission to expand, to grow, to be abundant, to allow our fullness. And so from that place, it becomes a lot easier to connect with our dreams and desires as well. So lots and lots of tools and techniques in that. Let me know what works for you, what resonates for you. And if you have also gone through an experience in your life whereby, for whatever reason, you have disconnected from that very dream big part of yourself, and whether some of these things have helped you reconnect. So look forward to hearing from you, and I will be back again in a few days with more wholehearted living tools and techniques for you. Bye for now.